So that was also masking part of the issues and adding to the issues that I was dealing with. And it was not good for my family. And I stopped drinking in 2016 after it was a terrible night of drinking, and my wife had just had enough, and it was either stop drinking and save my family, or keep drinking and I'm going to be by myself. And as much as I thought I wanted to be by myself, I knew that was the absolute worst thing I could have ever done. And I knew that I needed my wife to survive, like my family, my kids. And so I quit drinking, and I think that was, without that, I don't know if I would have even made it to where we're at. I don't think I could have made it past that point if I wouldn't have gave up alcohol.
Wow.
That's huge. I understand that totally. Can I ask kind of a deeper question? It might, if it's too personal, I will totally understand you not wanting to share this with the world. But while you were kind of medicating some of your issues away through self-medication, alcohol, would you ever say that this became an addiction? Are you an alcoholic?
Oh yeah, I'm totally addicted to. I'm an alcoholic, absolutely. I became so addicted to alcohol that I would drink at work. Me and my buddies would have they would think, oh yeah, we crack a beer at the end of the day, but they didn't know that I was drinking 3 or 4 before or something like that. I would buy Gatorade bottles, or get bottles of Gatorade and fill them, drink it halfway and then fill the rest with vodka so I could drink on the way home, and it was in my Gatorade bottle so nobody would know, and then I would hide it at my house and try and get away with, drinking it here and drinking it there, because I was just trying to cope with life, but then my wife, she's not stupid. She would find it and it would be like, wow, really? You think you have to hide it to just do what you're going to do and quit being a sneak,
Right.
quit lying about things. And so I realized, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. And I know if it weren't for the military and their constant drug testing, I probably, just would have ended up like the guys that are living in the civilian world, getting addicted to drugs or something.
Yeah.
And but I was so worried about losing my career that I thought, man, the military is a great place. I know many alcoholics in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
So
the U.S. military, the land of the functional alcoholic.
Exactly. So I was like, I can get away with this, but I'll never get away with the other thing. So I just stayed clean. But addiction is crazy in the world that we live in. I know a lot of guys who didn't stay clean and got kicked out of the military because their PTSD led them to addiction, and they just couldn't deal with things. They couldn't deal with the choices that they were forced to make in a shitty situation. And we're putting everybody that gets in and has to go through this. They get plenty of classes on, here's what this looks like, or here's what to expect when you get home. But
nothing looks like that.
It doesn't really look like that. And if it does, you're not going to go talk about it because you're like, oh shit, I've got what they said I got.
Yeah.
I'm weak. If I go say something, I'm weak. And it's just this, we say, let's provide an atmosphere for people to discuss and talk about what's going on inside of them, but it's still so frowned upon that people hide it.
You're right. Let's talk about that, because the weakness, or at least what's labeled weak. If you're anything like my background, things like bad mental health, or I don't even hate that label, bad mental health. It's just mental health.
It's mental health, yeah.
is considered to be something of a voodoo or a something that isn't you can pray away. Can you talk about maybe where your spiritualism and maybe some of your worldviews, your ideas of things like masculinity, where those came from before you joined the military, and how those things kind of developed as you were in the military? And then before we go to the next thing, I'll begin to kind of prod around what happened after the military to those thoughts.
Okay. So, before I was in the Marine Corps, I was not a violent person. I wasn't, trying to pick fights with people. I didn't want to get in a fight, that's for sure. But I also just knew that, guys, I don't know, guys don't have feelings. We don't, and I don't remember ever really being told that by anybody, but I just remember that's just the thing, you see it either in TV about how guys are supposed to be, or you just see all the other guys. And like I said, I didn't live with my dad, so I didn't really have him to come talk to all the time, even though I saw him every other weekend for a while. And so once I got older, I didn't really go up there and see him a lot because I just kind of chose to live my life with my friends and stuff. And so that's probably the time where those ideas could have developed a little bit more if I would have went to see my dad. But so I didn't really, at church, like you said, nobody talked about mental health because if you had problems, you would go talk to the pastor and the pastor took care of your problems. But that's also you don't want to go to the pastor because you don't want people to know that you have problems.
Right.
And so you're okay, so how do I deal with these issues? I don't want to talk to my mom about this stuff. I'm not supposed to have these feelings in the first place. So whenever I see my dad, I don't want to tell my dad that I've got, emotions. And so then taking that into the military, and it just compounded. You don't have – it got to the point where you don't have feelings. You don't have emotions. You're like a robot. And it's not because you can't, because everyone does experience some feelings and emotions. But it's because nobody wants to deal with your emotions. Nobody wants to deal with your shit.
Right.
You're a burden. You're a burden if you bring shit to them. So don't. And by the way, if you do, we're going to tell everyone that you're a pussy or whatever. Pardon my language, but that's the attitude. And then so one day though, I decided I'm a grown ass man and I've got issues and I don't want to have issues. So I went and started talking to people. And that was a very difficult decision because I was a drill instructor at the time. And as a drill instructor, you can't show emotions at all. You can't show the recruits that you are a human being because you're trying to portray this image to them. And then that just made everything that I was experiencing even worse because now I'm having emotions, but I'm trying to be this fucking robot. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't cuss.
You're fine.
Let me. I don't want to interrupt your story or anything, but I just want to let you know. Don't worry about foul language. I have already conditioned this as explicit because it's two military guys talking. That was bound to happen. The second thing is, guys, please lay off the phone lines. I know that it's a great show, and we do have plenty of people calling. We actually have 6 calls in queue. And Andy's already had to tell a couple of people that we're not going to be taking calls tonight because this is a conversation between us. And we kind of want to take this in the direction that we're going to be taking this instead of bringing in other voices. We do encourage you to call write the show or even text me if you want. 405-550-4255. And I'll see about tossing a couple of these questions his way near the end of the show. I'm sorry, Bradley, I didn't want to throw you off, but we're getting kind of bombarded here. You're a very popular man.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no worries. I mean, and so I was saying, though, that, as I got to a point whenever I was doing my tour as a drill instructor that I couldn't keep living this feelings. And luckily, I got put on basically once you do your time as a active drill instructor, you go to a quota position, and you're supposed to have like less stress. And so I got put into the S3, so I'm dealing with training in unit activity. And so whenever I got there, no worries. I've never really had an office job before, but okay, cool. And I had time, and this is a place it was like an office position where I got regular hours, and so I could go to lunch. And so I started going and seeing a therapist at lunch, and it was crazy how just talking to somebody helped. And so I became an advocate, and I became open about getting help as I transitioned to a platoon sergeant position after I was done being a drill instructor. So I'm back in the infantry. I have 30 plus young men underneath me, and they're all, experiencing their own stuff. And so I became an advocate for mental health. We had a couple suicides in the battalion, and I could see kids struggling, and I call them kids. These are grown men, but I looked at them like my own children sometimes. Some of these young guys, they're 18, 19 years old, and they signed up to serve their country. These are grown men. But anyway, you can see them experiencing all sorts of things that they had never experienced before, and I felt like I'm in a position I need to help these guys. So I offered an ear. I offered myself, and then as guys got closer and more open to who I was as a leader, they started trusting in me, and I could tell them, hey, it's okay to go talk to the chaplain. It's okay to go talk to the doc, the MO, or, I go see a therapist, and it's okay to go talk to a therapist. And so I started working in the battalion. There was a position with the S3, so it was like a secondary duty. But I became the guy who gave classes about suicide prevention, and I started talking about these issues of mental health, and it was kind of a cool opportunity because I took it seriously, and I'm glad that I was the one giving the classes and not somebody who didn't take it seriously. Because who knows, maybe some young Marine out there heard something in my class and decided to use that knowledge, and so I hope that whoever I've given classes to about anything like that, that they've taken me seriously, because I'm totally serious about mental health and getting help and talking it out, because that's the therapy of just talking does is pretty amazing.
Absolutely. And whether you're looking at it through the lens of psychology and talking to a psychologist, or a friend talking to a friend, or a Christian talking to another Christian, we need the other people in our life to be able to kind of understand some of the things that we are struggling with and dealing with. And Bradley, when I met you, I didn't feel as alone in the world, because I'm sharing a talk with a veteran who shares very similar ideas now, which may seem to some as contradictory to other ideas that they held in the past. I went through a difficult time through my time coming back from the military. I had to put a lot of things into perspective, deal with some guilt, and deal with trying to understand what my place in the world was. Where did that begin for you?